Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the last session of NHRDN Day 3. So, before we start with our award functions, we have this session with two eminent and strong women who have truly proved that women are no less than men. They are going to shed their light on a very interesting topic from engagement to experience. I welcome our moderator, Ms. Neeta Balmohan, Director and Principal Program Manager, Global HR. She has worked 15 plus years in human resources and has also worked towards redesigning organizations, HR business partnering, talent management, and diversity inclusion. With her, I also welcome on stage Ms. Hetal Parekh, the co-founder and president of Rangam Consultants, which was founded by her in 1995. Rangam is a high performing, diverse supplier of staffing services in IT, healthcare, engineering, and other administrative sectors. This is surely going to be an insightful session. And without taking much time, I hand it over to you, Neeta ma'am. The stage is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Isha. That's a nice start, and it's my pleasure to be moderating this session with you, Hazel, this evening for us in India and morning for you in the US. It's a tough task for me to follow Professor Vasanti and retain the energy levels that I saw her in the previous session. Hetal, my question to you, as an entrepreneur and founder of technological solutions that has benefited myriad groups in the space of staff augmentation for large organizations, for schools, teaching math, science, as well as life skills and social skills, and the more recent work that your organization has undertaken involving uniquely abled people. Can you tell us the key difference between employee engagement and employee experience? Many of us use these terms so interchangeably. So we really want to hear from you. What does this mean to you and how do you differentiate these two terms?
Well, thank you so much, Neetaji, for this wonderful background and introduction and sharing a little bit about the story about our journey at Rangam. What I will share with you is at Rangam, our mission is truly to promote meaningful employment for everyone, inclusive of people with disability and autism. And what we have learned as organizations, as individuals in the past 2 years is how we can be resilient and how we can look at talent differently. If you think about the world of work today, right? 2 years ago, there was talk about what the workforce is going to dictate how, where, and when they're going to work. There was demands of flexibility, all of that great stuff. But today, it's very unique, very different. People have had a chance with the remote world of work shifting, and how this remote world of work has really provided reflection on individuals to understand what is most valuable to them. So we have to look at talent in a very unique way today. How we engage with talent, how do we bring them to their true authentic self to work, and really tying them with our business goals, objectives, and our mission and our values. I was just talking to a colleague the other day, and I said, it's today talent is our new customer. You can't think about talent as a commodity, but we really need to tie them with what value proposition, what is meaningful to them, what is value, what do they value as an individual, as a profession. We really have to take a look at that, and organizations are going to need to shift in terms of how they operate and what their operating model is like, and tying their business objectives, their values, their goals with the talent. Previously, some of the models that we all know about is more hierarchical. But I would say in the future, we're going to see a lot more of flat structure happening, because we're looking at talent and tying them with what is their true abilities, what are their skills, and then most importantly, what are they passionate about? What will make them get up in the morning, wake up in the morning, and come to work? That engagement, that is what's going to be critically important. And HR, in my mind, will play a huge role in this field. HR, I believe in personally, is underrepresented, undervalued profession, where we look at HR in a very different way, but in the future, they are going to be the key success drivers for helping organizations to meet their overall objectives, whether if it's financial objective, whether if it's a mission-driven, purpose-driven organization, so driving their mission, driving their purpose. So that engagement is going to be measured and looked at in a very unique way. But experience that we talk about, experience is about how we are bringing that talent to work. How are we guiding them? How are we coaching them? How are we bringing opportunities to them? How are we supporting them? How is our technology and our internal HR tech platforms is really honing in on the individual's progressions in real time and really tying them with those inspiring, exciting opportunities where they're going to thrive. And that's going to be the big responsibility of HR and organizations as they look at their world of work and as they look at their workforce and as they think about how are they going to develop their workforce of the future.
It's very, very interesting what you say. So absolutely, what our takeaway was meaningful employment. Absolutely understanding what's valuable to people, and the way I've written down is experience is more of a pull factor. How do you actually bring these employees, and then how do you actually provide them the various elements that they look for in at work, right? So that's very interesting. Which takes me to a question. In your experience of having interacted with and advising senior leaders across large corporations, what are some good practices that organizations are adopting, especially in the era of great resignation?
That is a really interesting topic. I think it's on everybody's mind. I feel that the great resignation verbiage is overly used. I look at this as more great migration, great opportunities, great reshuffle. As I mentioned earlier, right? We are looking at the world of work today in a very unique way, and the workforce is really seeking organizations that they can work, which they can work for, that has a certain meaningful purpose that's tied with their own personal alignment of their own what they believe in, what their beliefs are, what their philosophy is. So the leaders of the today, for many of the large art enterprises and organizations, are having to develop different skills and thinking about managing the talent community in a very unique way. And I sort of relate this to sports coaches, right? When we think about the trainers of this in the sports industry, the coaches are guiding them, understanding the player's mindset, understanding how well are they physically, mentally, preparing them from every angle for health and wellness, and preparing them for their next game so they can be a great player, team player, and help achieve the goals and the objectives of that team. That's how managers and the leaders today are going to need to think about things. They're not going to, they're going to have to shift their mindsets from managing tasks and looking at are my deliverables met, with managing the team in a very unique way. And I think when we look at things in that way, the results will automatically happen. So look, organizations are going to really need to think about how their values are set, what are their values, and really looking at those values and not thinking about too much about the end results, because the end results will automatically follow.
Again, very, very interesting input, and especially your correlation of how managers need to be like a sports coach, right? Very, it absolutely resonates, because a lot of times we see, the minute you move away from talking about what you achieved, what's your next goal, and actually talk about the person, who is she, who is he, what's the entire package that they bring to the workplace, what are their interests, and what are some common values they share with the immediate team, with the organization. I think the relationship is so much stronger and it's so much more meaningful, right? And it's a wonderful perspective. I do have another question, right? So the steps involved, you're talking about the various things that managers can do. So the steps involved in the employee experience journey, before 2019 versus now, what we famously call the post-pandemic era. How do you think it has changed, and what are some good organizations doing? What are some good practices that we see in the industry?
I think many of the organizations are reshuffling their uh, HR practices and their recruiting models, because that recruiting model is really essentially screening people out versus screening people in, and treating talent like a commodity is long gone. We have to treat um, employees and individuals like a talent, as I mentioned earlier, right? And so there are three things, I would say there are three things that are really key to the success of employee experience and employee engagement. And those are the three things is it's going to be very critical for organizations to really think about is how am I engaging with this person? What kind of impact this individual is going to have on our organization? And is there a growth path for this individual in real time? And so the way we have been doing employee performances, employee reviews is going to dramatically shift and dramatically change. And technology is going to play a key role in this space, I believe, that is going to help identify in real time what are the areas of opportunities and growth that we can tie this individual who has this incredible talent or the skills. But really taking a look at how our systems are designed right now, from attracting the talent, from interviewing, engaging with them, doing the onboarding. The onboarding becomes a very critical factor in the employee experience as they join the organizations. What they heard about regarding their mission, vision, and their values, it will be reflected during their onboarding experience. And then after the onboarding experience, once they have joined the organization, how much learning opportunity are we providing them? I think today's world of work is really thriving around learnings. I think individuals, if we've seen during the pandemics, the lot of the online courses that were available, a lot of the education that was offered and available at easy access skyrocketed. And so that really does tell us that we are, as human beings, we're always looking to learn and grow. And that growth, that learning growth, is what it really helps to bring individuals to feel like they are contributing to something, that they are belonging somewhere where they can create some value. And so that is going to be the biggest key factor for organizations to really think about how they design their structure. And one of the biggest things that I don't think I've mentioned earlier is a skill of empathy. So at Rangam, our tagline is empathy drives innovation. And I truly believe that not only does empathy drive innovation, that leaders who exercise and practices empathy, but it also drives inclusion. And when you have inclusion in terms of ensuring that every team member feels like that they belong to this organization, that they are added value, that they're contributing to their overall mission and the vision, that's when you'll see greatest productivity, greatest development, greatest successes, and greatest ROI on those investments.
It's very interesting. You bring in this point of empathy, right? Again, a very recent example is, in our organization, when we actually ran what we call the return to work program or the career relaunch, we absolutely understood the power of, how you can integrate people who have taken breaks, for various reasons. And the minute you actually, get managers coached on ensuring that there is no unconscious bias, about these people. And the minute you come back and, when you bring them in the onboarding piece that you talk about, the minute you actually onboard them in a manner where they are even, integrated into the organization even stronger, we saw that the employee experience for these women has been absolutely higher than what we have seen in the past years. And I can, I hope to God, but I know that these women are probably going to be far easier to retain because they have experienced something which is meaningful, which is, something that they wanted so badly. And, what you talked about, taking into consideration the individual, expectations. So I think that's something that I can resonate with, when you said that.
So
So
Nisha, I
I have
think
one.
sure,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's a really interesting topic because as you were speaking about the returning women back to work, it really does relate to how we look at talent, and looking at their skills and their abilities becomes so critical, and not looking at their experience, right? So when we're faced with great resignation and organizations are challenged and they're uh, feeling a sense of stress around, oh my gosh, I'm having this huge turnover. How am I going to continue to bring talent on board? What can I do different internally? Do I need to reevaluate my comp? Do I need to reevaluate a certain structure within my organization? I feel that there's talent that's already out there. We're just not honing in on that community, that group of people that is striving and looking for that opportunity. So when we start thinking about changing our recruiting life cycle and how we screen people in, and thinking about their skills and their abilities, and not looking at their experience, that's when you're going to see this amazing talent joining your organizations. And examples are not just in women returning back to work, but it also relates to underrepresented communities like people with disability, neurodiversity. I would say in certain parts of the world and the country, various different intersectionalities, veterans, LGBTQ. So there are lots of great communities that often are underrepresented or haven't had that opportunity to have that experience to put on their resume, but they've got the passion, they've got the skills, they've got the motivation. And that's what the organizations need today, right? We're looking for ways how we can motivate people, how we can retain them. But so that the talent is right at your front door, you just have to figure out how to bring them in.
So true. And Hetal, today, when every organization is actually, this war for talent, again, we've been using these terms for like more than 2 decades, but then all the more now when everybody has the ability to work from home, right? So there's very little. I mean, it feels like the ability that the organizations had, the magical powers, have suddenly shifted to the employee. And it is so important because I feel like technology has also played a role of a leveling, agent where I could be who I am and I could be based out of anywhere in the world, but I can come contribute. And it is so true what you say that, if we for once start integrating people from, different groups that we have probably, excluded for whatever reasons, right? So it'll probably make a huge difference. So my next question to you as a segue is, what role, I know you talked a little about what managers got to do, and you also talked about the role, that the underrepresented HR folks can actually play in this journey. Tell us some more about what's that exact few things that the manager can do, and what are a few things that the HR can do to enable a positive employee experience.
There's a lot that managers can do. There's a lot that HRs can do. I think, as I mentioned earlier, right, it's important to understand the person as a whole, not looking at metrics in terms of gauging people through certain metrics that really puts them in a box, versus really understanding and creating that path for individuals to feel that they can bring the true authentic self to work. Once they can do that, they will be able to drive a lot of other passion that they have and bring some other skills into the organizations to drive innovation, to drive different perspective, different ideas, different thoughts. And so, to me, I would say building that trust. One of the biggest key things, that common denominator that any individual within the organizations, whether they're leaders, managers, executives, HR, what they can do is really drive trust factor within the organization, where when individuals can feel that they are empowered and they can bring their true authentic self to work and do the best that they can, and they can fail and it's okay to fail, that they will not be penalized for failing. That trust factor, those values that I talked about earlier about the organizations, really upholding that and really providing them with that platform and that I would say that level of engagement where then they can feel safe. That's when you're going to start to see an incredible transformation and the types of experiences that managers will experience, to say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you can do this. Well, because the voices are often not sometimes suppressed. They're not heard, or they're being told what to do. We're not really paying attention and listening oftentimes to see what are some of the new ideas, creative ideas. And this world is moving so fast that every organization has to think about how they're going to constantly innovate. And how are we going to innovate if we don't create a platform where employees can feel safe through trust?
It's so pertinent what you say again, right? So again, in the last 2 years, especially, we've been talking about how organizations need to provide psychological safety to its employees, right? Well-being. That's one topic again where the manager, I think, has come to the fore, right? It's bygone that managers will just get work done through their colleagues, not worry about how they're doing. But I think in the again, in the pandemic era, I think there's quite a few lessons where managers have absolutely, and unfortunately, some of us have probably seen some of our employees burn out. And all the more, I think organizations are finally taking a very, very hard look at how we are engaging with our employees, and are we really looking at what it means for them, right? How do I actually create that 10 hours of work? What all am I juggling at work? Things like that. I think that's such an important point. We do have a few questions on the side, and I see a series of questions which bring us to this very sensitive topic of compensation, right? Yesterday we heard Josh Burson, and even he brought up how the challenge across the globe, and all the more in countries like India, is the tug of war that organizations face between employee experience and compensation, right? It's not unusual when who we think is a well-engaged, recently promoted employee, he or she suddenly announces that they are leaving you because the competition has provided them 15, 20, 30, 40, the number keeps going up, the kind of percentage hike. So our question, and a very difficult one, is how can organizations buffer themselves from these external forces, leveraging the employee experience lever?
Sanita, that's a really interesting question. And I think time will tell on how the world will shape up in this space. I know there's a huge turmoil in this space where there's a turnover due to compensations, around compensations. And there's various different factors, as we discussed earlier as well. But in my mind, in my personal opinion, I don't think we have control over how economy changes, what are the rules, regulations, and how the competition is doing. But I think what we can do is have control over how we do business, how we operate business. And there's a terminology that says doing business with people that you know and you like. Don't worry about how much it costs, because the results will follow, right, as they say. So in this particular area, in my mind, the way I feel in this space is you're going to attract those right people that is tied with your mission and your organization. And those individuals, when you surround yourself with those individuals that have similar values, that's where you're going to flourish. And so really think about what we have control over, and not think about what we don't have control over.
It sounds great to me, Hetal, but in my new role in the last 2 months, I've been struggling to hire talent. So I'm going to take away this idea and probably come to you with more inputs when I need them. We have a couple minutes left, and one of the last questions that I'm going to ask you is, tell us the role that the champions at work play in the employee experience. What's the difference between someone who, let's say, has a mentor or someone to turn to versus someone who finds themselves, like a small fish in a big ocean? Tell us the role of this person or this group for a person when enhancing the employee experience.
So many organizations today have developed something called ERG group, which are employee resource groups of various different types of employee resource groups. But I think it's critically important for every individual to have, I call this like the wingman, wing lady, someone where they feel they can reach out to for any kind of support, help, or just be there. That individual that can mentor them, that can be the sounding board for them, that can be that confidence, or a voice behind their heads is, what they need to hear in a positive way. So every organization, it's critically important for them to create these employee resource groups where individuals can tap into, where they can connect based on some of the challenges that they're faced with, based on some of the areas of involvement that they want to get involved in. Many times people join these employee resource groups not because they're looking for help, or they're joining because they want to reach out and help someone because they've been through that situation, they've been through that experience, and then there might be somebody in that area where they're struggling today. So it is that creating that natural ecosystem of, and we call this in our world of when we help organizations develop and design programs that are scalable, sustainable for people with disability and neurodiversity. We call this natural support system, that it's important to create that. While every individual will have family members at home, or their colleagues or their friends that they're reaching out to for support and help, but within the organization, there's someone that they can always have, like a buddy system or an individual, really helps to thrive and helps them to really get comfortable and helps them to really help carve the path for their future and for their career growth.
Sure. No, the Hetal, what you say again makes resonates, because again, just another example that we figured, especially in the last 2 years, a lot of mothers with very young kids, for example, right? We saw that retaining them, no matter what we had and what we told them, was very very difficult. And one of the things that we are actually piloting is what we call the return to work mentoring program. It's basically some of us who have gone through the journey, mentoring and being the wing woman, like you said, the wing lady, and absolutely saying, hey, I used to be there, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, and here I am. If I could do it, you could do it too. You can do it too. And that, I think, will make such a huge difference. So thank you so much. This was a very, very interesting chat. It was a pleasure hosting you again, and I hand over to Isha now.
Thank you so much, Nita. It was a pleasure and an honor for me to be here.
Thanks a ton for such a powerful and impactful session. Hearing two wonderful ladies together on such a platform with such sensitive and an important topic was indeed a pleasure. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening ahead. And now I hand it over to Charudit.
Thank you, Isha. So, since Mr. Scott couldn't be part of today's event, we have a special video from him. I would request our team to please show it to us.
We can't hear you. Hey, Isha, Charudat, we can't hear him. Huh?
We'll just restart. I think some technical glitch. Just give us a moment. We'll restart the video. Thank you.
Yeah, till the time our technical team takes care of it, We would like to thank our platinum sponsor ONGC, silver sponsor Zozo Day, JSW, and White Crow Research, associate sponsor ICICI Bank, Indian Oil, NTPC, Mahindra, World at Work India, and Balmer Lorry Company, knowledge partner Mercer, and communications and design partner Fulki. Thank you.
Oh, and namaste. As a past chief HR officer and now the CEO of World at Work, I'm really excited and very optimistic for where our profession is going. Employers are now being pushed to rethink most aspects of the workforce, including the fact that work is no longer a place. Working in a post-COVID world has many implications, and there are still many undiscovered facets of how we will move forward. There is a monumental reset of nearly every aspect of work, and I would argue of life, including where, when, why, and how we work. HR professionals are emerging as more influential business partners, and they'll play a much bigger role in how organizations ultimately achieve their success. Even though, however, the demands and dynamics are changing, what remains constant is that the lifeblood of every company, every organization in the world are our employees. And the emerging and ever critical agenda for HR will be the experience that you now need to create for them. Remember, the workforce you had before COVID is not the workforce you have today. I was thrilled to see the National HRD Network host its 24th National Conference on the theme of metamorphosis of human resources in the realm of meta, mega, meet, and more. This is really a powerful opportunity to explore what it will take to enable organizational growth and sustainability in what I see as the great rebalancing of why organizations exist. With over 65 years of legacy, World at Work is the global leader in the areas of compensation, rewards, pay equity, and well-being. And our vision ultimately is to help create a world of productive, committed, and inspired workforces. We work really hard to build skills, research what works and why, share best practices, advocate, network, and provide thought leadership to help the world work. As a mission-driven organization, we are proud that our certifications set the standards in nearly 100 countries around the world and that our educational content shapes the reward and remuneration programs for millions of workers. When you consider the fact that on average, 70% of an organization's annual revenue goes to pay, comp, and benefits, this is a very important part of this work thing to get right. And from that perspective alone, HR doesn't need a seat at the table. We are the table. Now, due to prior business commitments, including a board meeting this week, I'm not able to speak to you live. However, we are really excited about the prospect of partnering with the National HRD Network to promote the people development movement in your country, as well as enhancing and accelerating the human resource capabilities that enable really competitive growth. I also want to send my sincerest congratulations to Mr. S.V. Nathan, the National President, Professor Vijayan Jackson, the convener of this amazing 24th National Conference, as well as his co-convener, Mr. Anand Kote, and certainly the Director General of the National HRD Network, Mr. Dhananjay Singh, for hosting what I would say is an incredibly inspiring and thought-provoking conference that attracted nearly 5,000 HR professionals. Once the pandemic eases and we can travel more safely,
Thank you so much, Scott, for that video. Now let's move on to the last session, that is the award session. Thank you.